It's not bad. Not bad at all. Oh, Elvis Presley. Nice to meet you. Military left up. He said, right. Anyway, that's enough of that. Growing up globally, the early years. Learning outcomes. After reading this chapter, you will be able to understand why the cross-cultural perspective is important. Understanding children's development. Consolidate what you learned in chapter 1 and 5, 1 to 5. Revisit the ideas you came across in chapters 1 to 5 in a cross-cultural context. Introduction. This last chapter of the early years section is structured differently from the others. It is designed to be a breathing space where we survey the ground we've covered and consolidate what we've understood. And it provides an opportunity for you to revisit areas you haven't fully grasped the first time around, and to help you join the dots in the story so far. All the key points from each chapter are repeated here, so the essential takeaways are in one place. The second function of the chapter is to re-examine what we have already discovered from a more global perspective. So every section, the early years, section 1, middle childhood, section 2, and adolescence, section 3, is capped by a growing up globally chapter for each of the topics we have been looking at, whether that be mind reading, language, or learning. We unpack one claim and explore whether it holds up to the diversity of children's experiences around the world. Why would we want to do that? In a famous research paper titled "The Weirdest People in the World," evolutionary anthropologist Joseph Henrich and his colleagues pointed out something odd about psychological research. 96% of participants in the studies they looked at were from weird societies, or those that were Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic, despite these societies only representing about 12% of the world's population, 2010. Studies that look at child development in particular are also highly biased towards certain populations in the West, usually testing children from white middle-class suburban communities. This skewed sample matters if we take that the ways children grow up in the non-weird parts of the world are significantly different from weird ones. There's plenty of evidence to suggest they are, but the main point is that we don't actually know the extent of these differences until we look. If we want to say something about all children grow up, not just the weird ones. Everyone needs to be part of the story. To be clear, children from weird societies represent a good sample as any other children. But if we want to say something more general about how children grow up in our other contexts, we need to be more inclusive. A big theme of this book is that children around the world are similar and different. If we want to understand how they are similar and different, careful cross-cultural work can help us work out which features of our psychology and behavior are more sensitive to cultural input and flexible, and which are more heritable and stable. Amar and Cliff, 2020. For example, take something as basic as learning to walk, which we might think develops in a very similar way for all children. And sure enough, no children learn to run before they can walk. That's not true. You get them block walking things, and the child stands up, and the cart of blocks just runs away with them, and they're running behind them. And they haven't even learned to walk yet. But the precise timing of when they walk can be significantly affected by the parenting practices of the culture they are born in. Kongsan infants are born into a society of foragers who live at the western edge of the Kalahari Desert. These infants are encouraged to walk from early on in development, being held upright by parents, and consequently they learn to walk significantly earlier than American infants. Connor, 2005. By contrast, Ake infants in Amazonian Paraguay, who are actively discouraged from learning to walk due to primarily to safety concern, are delayed up to a year in this area when compared to American infants. Kaplan and Dove, 1987. If the development of something as basic as walking can be affected by culture, then we should expect that many other aspects of child development are too. Key point, the cross-cultural perspective can help us work out how children are similar and how they are different. Every effort has been made to address the weird bias in this book by drawing on research from around the world. Figure 6.1 shows the locations of some children that feature in this book. The societies that these children grow up vary a lot in their culture, community, size, geography, way of life, languages, spoken, economic circumstances. Child development needs greater diversification. Well, that's a nice big word. Not only in who is in its studies, but also in who studies it. As researchers themselves tend to be from some weird societies, they study the cultural values and biases of these societies, inevitably seep into researchers' interpretations of the data and the methodological, it's another one, choices they make. Developmental psychologist Robert Serpel compared how well Zambian and British children could copy a visual display using 4 different medias: pencil and paper, strips of wire, plasticine, and using their hands. The Zambian children did much better at copying than the British children when they were using strips of wire. A common type of material Zambian children might use to make handmade toys. The British children did better with pencil and paper, a common experience. Locations of some of the children featured in this book including Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Bolivia, Botswana, Brazil, Canada, Central Africa Republic, Chile, China, Colombia, Cuba, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ecuador, Egypt, Ethiopia, Fiji, Finland, Germany, India, Indonesia, Israel, Italy, Jamaica, Japan, Jordan, Kenya, Liberia, Malawi, Mexico, Namibia, Nepal, Netherlands, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Norway, Papua New Guinea, Paraguay, Peru, the Philippines, Polynesia, Romania, Russia, Rwanda, Samoa, Sweden, Switzerland, Thailand, the UK, the USA, Zambia. Source: NASA Earth Observatory. For them, as they were all in school, whereas the Zambian children were not, the children performed similarly with the two medias that were equally familiar to them, plasticine and using their hands, Circle, 1979. So how researchers ask questions matter, and a variety of media hadn't been used. In this case, we might have drawn some incorrect conclusions about the groups perform better, hoping to transplant the same test across very different cultures can be naive or, at worst, a kind of intellectual colonialism. Lansford et al. 2021, 6.2. As Circle research demonstrated, children are the same, using plasticine on their hands, and different using strips of wire versus pencil and white paper. Depending on how the question is framed, the group differences in the cases were best explained by different cultural experiences with the material than by any inherent differences in children's ability to copy. What's the 1 minute method? Discover why our methods need to be culturally meaningful and sensitive to these experiences of children taking part in research. How much is it?